Women of Reddit, how do you feel when someone looks at your chests while in a conversation? You glance, don't stare. It's like looking into the sun. Yeah, you don't stare at it. It's too risky. You get a sense of it and then look away. Awkward. I for sure saw you do it, and you saw that I saw you. Now we have to continue. I'm pregnant, so this happens a lot. Look, we know it's a subconscious thing, so at least don't make it obvious. If it just looks, and we still can hold a conversation, it's 100% normal. I don't mind it at all. Just don't be creepy about it. Apologies to the women of the world when I'm staring into oblivion and your chest happened to be on my direction. It depends. Am I wearing a low-cut shirt or a stained t-shirt? Two very different thought processes. Well, I'd imagine if you noticed that they did it, and you thought about their reasoning, then you probably got caught looking. Doesn't happen to me much since they are tiny, but it has happened. I don't get offended, but it is so awkward, like they've been hypnotized or something. I hate it, especially if I'm not wearing a shirt without any graphics or text. I stopped buying scoop necks, and the ones I do have, I started wearing backwards with a cardigan at work. When women wear graphic t-shirts with writing on their chest, I'm always hesitant to read it because I don't want to look like bad guy. Honestly, they are probably the only part of me that I actually like, so I'm fine with people having a quick look, as long as it's not a creepy thing. I got my puberty earlier, and I have bigger chest than others. My age, whenever someone looks at them, I feel uncomfortable, since it's mostly grown men and older boys. Honesty, I'm used it. Unless they are gawking or being creepy about it, I don't give it a second thought. My wife hates it. She has very, very big chest. She was complaining about them one day, and my mom says, well dear, they are very hard to miss. It really doesn't bother me if you look at them like, yes, they exist. Hi. But when you talk with me, look into my eyes. I don't stare at a guy's bulge either. Listen, chesties are great. I get it. I'll totally check out a girl's chest too. But if you're staring, it's very annoying. I know you're no longer listening, so it makes me want to take my fantastic rack and walk away. I get offended. But then again, I'm a fat dude, so I don't think this question pertains to me. I would suggest you stop offering them up for motorboating. It sends mixed signals. I spent most of my young life hearing from my mother that I'm not feminine enough, and I'll never be womanly because I have a tomboyish personality. I've got some decent ones, so it kinda helps my self-esteem if I'm being honest. I'll stare at their forehead, make them think they have something on their face. Most people will wipe at their face. If they have pimples, even better. Might be mean, but oh well. You look, I look. Social media actually made me more self-conscious. Then I used to be about this. Wore a low-cut top once in a picture while playing Warhammer and a bunch of 9 gauges zoomed in on the pic and posted it. After that, never wore low-cut again. It depends. I had a boss that would glance down literally every 30 seconds. We wore baggy, ugly polo shirts that did nothing to highlight the area, and yet he did it with every single female. If it's a one and done, I notice, but don't get offended. Flattered, but I'm not pretty. I'm not putting myself down. Just a fact. People generally do not show interest in me that way, except for hubby. A glance is flattering. However, don't stare if you're engaging in conversation. I like eye contact. Otherwise, stare all you like. But the worst is when you inadvertently glance. The girl notices, and then she starts to cover up. I've made her feel conscious enough to do that. That wasn't my intention, and by her covering up in my next interaction, my head and eyes are frozen only in the direction of her face. Besides the obvious awkwardness and uncomfortable feeling everyone has pointed out, I kind of feel just a bit powerful. Like, yeah, you were looking at my chests, weren't you? My feminine wiles have successfully trapped you, and alas, you are now forced into your bubble of embarrassment after realizing what you've done. Good. I once had an injury playing hockey and had to get 3 stitches on my forehead at the hairline. It was then that I knew, just in the tiniest way, how women must feel. I could clearly see every split-second conscious glance people took at the stitches. They didn't even realize they were doing it, and I could clearly see it every single time. I'm more comfortable with that than eye contact. Edit. Thank you for the unexpected reaction, mostly positive. Please note that I'm not sending anyone premenstrual syndrome of my chest for you to wank over, despite the money offers. But thanks anyway. I am an ex-hairstylist, and when I would cut men's hair and would be standing in front of them, cutting bangs or something of that nature, I could just feel their eyes burning a hole into my chest. I did have one guy tell me straight up on the middle of our conversation, "I'm looking at your chest," and he did this weird chuckle. I had no words. He tipped well though. If that's all they're focused on, then it's a problem. Like my eyes are up here and we're talking. Come on, what is wrong with you? But sneaking glances or whatever doesn't bug me. I fully admit I've done it when talking to girls. Will just flick my eyes down for a second and get a glance. But don't stare. Never stare. That's one of the more uncomfortable things anybody can do. Same with looking at a butt. Get a glance. Don't stare. We're all human and size one another up. It's just the way we're wired. I understand they are attractive to guys, especially at a teenage. And I catch a lot of people getting a glimpse, but I don't mind. Anyways, there was this one guy staring off into space at them. That's when I asked to be excused for a bit. I've had that happen way too often, and I'm a woman. I've accidentally spaced off and someone's butt will come into view because they walk in front of me. Sometimes they'll move and realize I wasn't staring at them, but it has gotten me into trouble at times. I just like to daydream low. If someone glances then looks away, all is good. Sometimes it's involuntary, and sometimes I purposely wear a top that makes me chest look good. So don't mind at all. If someone is really weird and creepily staring at them, is definitely call them out for making me uncomfortable. I was working as a cashier. This lady that was a regular comes in and is talking to me as I'm ringing her up. I look down to make sure the card reader is working because it has been on the fritz all day. I point to the machine to indicate it's not working. At the exact moment, her bracelet catches on her shirt and pulls her low-cut shirt down, and her whole chest comes out. She didn't feel her bracelet catch. Instead, registers that I'm pointing directly at her exposed chest in full glory. I wanted to die. She wanted to die. I was not into her, and she never came back to my register. It depends on how obvious they're staring. If it's a glance, whatever. If not, I stop talking and just stare back at them till they notice. I try to give everyone the benefit of the doubt and crack a joke like, I'll give you 30 seconds to openly stare so you can get it out of your system and we can get back to the topic. Unfortunately, I had to stop because so many actually took me up on my offer. Looking is okay. Staring is annoying and gawking is rude. A noticeable stare gets a is there something in my shirt. Gawking gets a eyes are up here buddy. Unwanted touching gets a right hook to the face. I mostly just think, girl, you want to go to jail. I am 13, and yes, it has already happened more than it should that guys tried and spot my chest. Guys older than me, I am talking 25 plus, most of them, people my mother knows. Since I am a rather masculine woman and wear men's clothes, they have a harder finding them, but still, it's tapped as fuck and it makes me feel awkward and worthless. It depends. If I feel like it's taking away from someone's engagement in a conversation with me, it'll bug me, particularly if I think what I'm talking about is interesting or thought it would interest them in particular. If they're still just ass or hopefully more focused on the content of the conversation, I don't care or mind. Basically, if it seems like the value of my attractiveness is superseding the value of my intellect or personality in the other's perception, that's annoying and I will probably judge that person. Perhaps unless I'm talking about like some truly heinously boring thing. My middle school math teacher was a no-kidding model, like ads of her around town. She wore thin flowy blouses and was iconically feminine. She was really fun and interesting as a teacher too. Needless to say, she would literally have us watching her every move and hanging on her every word. Once, she dropped an eraser or something and bent over to pick it up. Full-on cleavage with a barely there, lacy bra. Tanned perfection. You would have thought we had all seen God from the commotion. Funny thing was, no one was disrespectful. We were all completely in love and I think she knew. Then some selfish person married her and she moved away. Honestly, it happens often enough that I'm whatever about it. Sometimes it's comical with the way people do it. I've only gotten angry and a flight or fight response. A few times when men stare for an extended period of time. I was once with my boyfriend and this dude specifically placed himself in the corner of the room to stare at me while I was eating. I could see my boyfriend turning red and getting really angry. I actually just stood up and said, "Take a picture, go to the bathroom, jerk off, get out of my face and leave me alone." It worked though. While having a conversation, it's horrible and invasive. I have tried several times that grown men don't look me in the eyes, but at my chests during a whole conversation, it's uncomfortable and irritating to say the least. And it makes me wonder how they don't realize since I am looking in their eyes and therefore notices that they aren't looking back into mine. Humans have white around their pupils, so we can use our eyes for communicating and follow glances. Flattered nearly every time, unless you are one of the following: related to me or in a position of power, boss, teacher, coach. If you don't stare, I'm also okay with. Public transport or work setting or friends. They're just chests and I know they are nice. I agree. I used to work with mostly men, but only one of them couldn't keep his eyes on my face. He was very active in his local church and would talk fondly of his wife when we worked together. No one believed that his eyes wandered, so I asked a female colleague to stand near me when I talked to him and watch. She was very surprised. A year after I left, he was targeted by pedophile hunters after sending messages and pictures to someone he believed was underage. Before his suspended sentence had expired, he was caught again with child abuse videos on his phone and imprisoned. I was the only one not surprised. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to subscribe.